It's the Memphis Sports Network. WMC Memphis, WMFS HD2 Bartlett Memphis, WMFS FM and HD1 Bartlett, WMFS Memphis, ESPN 790 AM and 92.9 FM ESPN.
Watch the sunrise, new day's dawning, and it's calling you and me. Where the mighty Mississippi flows by Memphis, Tennessee. We've got woodlands, fields, and water. Hey, there is no better way. You can find out all about it on Outdoors with Larry Ray. Make some time. Take the family, ask a friend, but don't delay. Listen up and learn about it on Outdoors with Larry Ray. Listen up and learn about it on Outdoors with Larry Ray.
Good Saturday morning and welcome to another edition of the award-winning Outdoors with Larry Rea on ESPN 790 AM. Brought to you proudly by Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, Barton Power Sports, Sportsman's Warehouse, and Best Care Home Services. Now, here's your host, Larry Rea.
Hey, welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Rea. Wow, we've been through an hour, and Ron Wong is it just rolls by here, doesn't it, Ron?
It absolutely does, and we've had an interesting show so far today. I mean, we have talked about bird dogs, about the Ames Plantation.
Yep.
We had a surprise guest on when we were interviewing the young lady who won a trip to fish in Florida with Bobby Lane. Bobby Lane pops in.
Yeah.
And, of course, one of our favorites and a favorite of the Mid-South, Mark Rose, just a tremendous person. And congrats to him on winning Lake Gunnersville, the FLW Tour initial event of the year. So he's off to a great start and, of course, $125,000 richer. So, wow.
That'll help anybody get off to a great start. And
I'm going to be really nice to him, see if he wants to buy us dinner.
Yeah. He did say he'd do that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll meet him at Poncho's. All right. Hey, we're going to talk now about a study that was completed not too long ago. The Tennessee Aquarium and the University of Georgia collaborated on a new study spotlighting the Southeast's most diverse and imperiled waterways. And according to this study, you might be surprised that Pickwick Lake in Middle Tennessee, North Alabama, was number one on the highest priority watersheds. And we're privileged to have with us on today's show is Dr. Bernie Kahada. He is with this study. He is my main man, according to Tom Benson. He can tell us a little bit about the study. So good morning, Dr. Bernie.
Hey, good morning, and thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you on, and I know Ron Wong was asking questions, and I was listening and everything as we get into this because...
well, it's very interesting in what you're doing, and I think one of the things that our listeners would like to know are what were the objectives of the study, and moving forward, are there things that will be recommended that can be done to preserve a species?
Really good questions. So as your listeners may or may not know, here in the Southeast, we live right in the middle of an underwater rainforest. We just have an incredible diversity of fishes, mussels, crayfishes, snails, and all sorts of aquatic life. We're number one. Tennessee and Alabama always fight back and forth. Who's number one with the most number of freshwater fishes? It's about 325 species. How many mussels? It's about 150. How many snails? It's about 200. How many crawdads? Believe it or not, we've got almost 100 different kinds of crawdads in Tennessee and Alabama.
Yeah.
And so we've got this incredible amount of aquatic critters all around us. but we get very little funding in the Southeast. If you look at all the threatened endangered species in the Southeast, and you look at all of them outside the Southeast in the United States, those endangered and threatened species outside of the Southeast get anywhere from 35 to 52 times more funding per species.
Wow.
Than we got here in the Southeast.
Yeah.
Another way to look at it, we've got 30% of the imperiled fishes in the whole United States right here in the Southeast, and we get right around 1% of the funding for 30% of the fish.
Well, why? Why is that?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons.
What's the main reason?
Some of it is just these really sort of megafauna, these really charismatic species like the Chinook salmon out in the Pacific Northwest. That one fish gets over $200 million a year. And the entire Southeast gets $6 million a year.
Wow.
For all of our species.
For all of our species. We got 30%. And another reason is really grassroots. If you got the liberal left coast and all those folks out there tell their senators and representatives, we want you to go to Washington and get money for these critters. And, folks in the Southeast, we don't even know what we've got here because it's not something you can catch on hook and line. And so part of the job here at the Tennessee Aquarium and what we do in the Conservation Institute is work on these little critters that not a lot of people know about, but I think are pretty awesome.
Well, again, we're talking to Dr. Bernie Quijada of the Tennessee Aquarium, and I know according to the study, which was done from, I got the dates here, from July 2015 to September 2016, that you collected about over 1,000 species, and you came up with a study, the 10 highest priority watersheds. Number one was Pickwick in Middle Tennessee and West Tennessee for him. How did Pickwick come up number one?
All right. So the way that came out number one, first of all, there's a lot of cool fish there in Pickwick Reservoir and the Tennessee River. Same thing, including lake sturgeon that the Tennessee Aquarium and our partners have been putting back in over the last 16 years after they disappeared in the 1970s.
Yeah.
But what really drives it is all the cool critters that we have in the streams and creeks and springs and caves all around that area that eventually drain into Pickwick Reservoir. I mean, we've got some really cool critters, like there are some mussels with the names like Shiny Pigtoe and Little Wing Pearly Mussel and the Cumberland Monkey Face. We've got crawdads that get big enough to be almost lobsters in Shoal Creek that nowhere else in the world they're found, the bottle brush crayfish. We've got the phantom cave crayfish that is just this white, no-eye little crayfish that's just found in 3 caves. We got the Alabama cavefish. It's only found in a single cave outside of Florence, only place in the world. So there's all these cool, fascinating little critters that are found all around the reservoir, and they're part of that watershed.
Wow. I mean, you just blew my mind. I'm a great person on names. I'd like to name lures. I would have liked to name some of these fish that I don't understand why this hadn't been on National Geographic's. I don't have to go to Australia to look for strange-looking fish and species. We got them right here in the Tennessee River. So
we really do.
And with names like this. And I know this study, as Ron was talking about, a lot of these fish I would consume, I guess, are bait fish for big bass and things along that line. Are these things that are on their way out? Are we going to lose some of these things if we don't get some more money?
Well, and that's the deal. A lot of your listeners may say, well, why should I care about this little fish that only gets a couple inches long? But like you said, all the game fish rely on all these smaller fish to feed on, and it's all part of that aquatic ecosystem that gives us our game fish and gives humans pretty much clean drinking water. That ecosystem really cleans up our water. And so you keep losing these endangered species. It's like pulling bricks out of the foundation of a house. Eventually you're going to pull out one brick and that foundation is going to collapse, and our ecosystem isn't going to work so good. We're not going to have as nice a bass and brim and catfish for folks to catch, and we're going to have to spend a lot more money on our water treatment plants for good drinking water. So, it's all part of the big picture, and of course, me as a geeky scientist, I just love the little critters just for them.
Yeah.
They're just fascinating when you get into their biology. There's a lot of these freshwater mussels. Their babies need to attach to a fish to complete their life cycle, and they create these lures. You talk about lures that look just like a swimming minnow or look just like an aquatic insect to get that fish to bite it, to get those larval mussels on the fish. It's amazing. Mussels create lures to catch fish to get their little babies on them. And there's one mussel that actually clamps down on the nose of a fish to inject it with its babies.
This, if you don't think that Dr. Bernie's not excited about this, you're not awake this morning. I mean, I can... you're getting wound up, and I can understand you really. This is not something that's just fun and games. You guys have put some time into this, and when you title something "The Master Plan to Save Our Nation's Richest Rivers," that's pretty scary. Thinking about what's the long-term object of this if something's not done.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got really limited resources, so we've got to spend them where you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck. And Pickwick Lake is that watershed is number one. And so, a lot of the problems we have with aquatics throughout the Southeast, they're common. All these species grew up, so to speak, with the Tennessee River as a free-flowing river. Now it's got Pickwick Lake on it. And so for a lot of these small stream and cave and spring fishes, that's like a desert. And so they really can't migrate and move between the streams like they used to go from like Shoal Creek to Cypress Creek or something like that. And so that's sort of hurting them a little bit. And then as our population centers grow, we get more pollution getting into the river.
Yeah.
If we have poor agricultural practices, we all need to eat. I'm not saying don't farm, but, if that farmer just cuts down all the trees and puts his crops right next to the river instead of leaving a buffer 20 or 30 feet of trees, then a big rain comes and he loses part of his field and all that dirt gets in there and covers up the rocks. So our plan is, okay, we know the Pickwick is really important, so now let's try to concentrate our resources on trying to improve some of these habitats for these aquatic critters, which eventually will help us with our clean drinking water.
Well, listen to this, folks. 1,400 species reside in the waterways within 500-mile radius of Chattanooga, including about 73% of all native fish species in the United States. But here's what got me here, Bernie. Yet 28% of southeastern fish species are considered imperiled.
Yep.
And that's, I don't know what the names of all these fish you just read off to me, but this is a study that I don't know how many people were involved in the study and the man hours that you went into this thing, but I realize that the people are out there saying, well, man, we got the world record, state record largemouth bass caught right there out of Chattanooga on Chickamauga, and we got things like this. Who cares about them little squirts? Well, I think the little squirts are what start the process to make big squirts.
You got it.
Well, it's a how can people get information about this, Bernie? They can go. Is it on tnaqua.org? Is that still? Where do they go to get information about your study?
Yeah, so they can get information on our study. They can go to the Tennessee Aquarium webpage, and they can go to Conservation, to the Conservation Institute, and there will be a link on that page where you can actually go to the 250-some page report if you want more details.
Wow. Okay, Dr. Bernie, thank you for being on Outdoors with Larry Ray. Appreciate your comments and conversation, and tell Tom Benson hello for us, and we'll stay in touch, okay?
All right, you guys have a great rest of the morning.
All right, thank you. All right, Dr. Bernie Kuhada. And now we can talk crappie. Okay, now, Ron, we got the little fish out of the way, and now we're going for the slabs. All right? Yeah. Something big's going to happen out of Sportsman Warehouse today. and out at 130 Marathon Way, and we'll talk about that. Let's take the next break, and we'll be right back on Outdoors with Larry Rea on ESPN 790.
You can find